More chairs up here if someone wants to get everybody to Nolley County for February. We have Marnie Crawford Samuelson here, wonderful filmmaker from the East Coast who did a about KPFC and their time during the fires. But first, before we get started, I just want to thank the Friends of the Library for the refreshments. You can join them. There's some join-up slips on the table if you want to. Also, there is a sign-up for our email list if you want to know about events coming up at the library. And there is a questionnaire about what programs you'd like to have at the library. If you feel that you want to tell us what you'd like, we'd like to hear from you. So without further ado, we'll let her speak and then we'll show her film. Thank you.
So the best part about making a film is not having to stand up here. You know, this is not what I'm usually doing. But mostly it's to say thank you to Lake County and to KPFC and to all the people who are in the film. And really, I start with thank you. I end with thank you. It was really welcoming that you were all part of this. So we're a film group of two. Essentially, some of you have seen me filming and doing the camera work and the interviews, but my film partner, Shane Hofeld, is back in Maine, and he is, he's the other half, and he co-directed it. He was in on all the discussions about how we were going to do this thing, all the story kinds of concerns, and then he's a really gifted editor. So I'm part of it, but only part of it. So I remember coming out here it was a couple of months after the fire, and I had seen the LA Times stories about KPFC, and I was interested in trying to do some kind of a climate change small film, and so the fires were on my radar, and friends had been camping in California, and they just kept talking about smoke, all that summer. And then when I saw the radio station, I love radio, and so I thought, well, these people have got to be interesting. This can't just be a one-day newspaper story. There must be some people, that I'd like to know better. And so that's how it started. And it was really intimidating, coming out here a couple months after the fire for me. First seeing the landscape and being so confused about it, because in my mind's eye, it was going to be kind of black trunks of trees, and sometimes I couldn't even tell where the fire had been. I'd see these trees that were fully leaved, but that weird copper color, and so it's like I feel so ignorant. I don't even know is that the fire? But mostly it was intimidating because I felt like I was standing in the in your suffering, and with a camera, and it was so I felt so shy about it. Like, I don't know if I should be here, and what is it like to be in the midst of this monster event, and and what is it like for a family to tell you again the story of how they escaped, with 3 minutes notice, and I still hold those same ethical questions about. Is it okay to ask? What I don't. They're just always part of something like this for sure, and they're unresolved, I think. But anyway, I came out. I met Andy because he was the gatekeeper. The first gatekeeper. And so I had to convince him that it would be to open the door, and he's been he was incredibly generous. From the beginning, and Yeah, and, but he was also really difficult because, because he kept saying to me, I'm not gonna be in the film. I am not gonna be in it. And, you know, it really became a problem because, you know, and he was like the central guy, and, yeah, he was stubborn. For sure. But I showed him the film. I came out a few months, I don't know, several months ago, and showed Betsy and Andy the film. And Andy made a really interesting comment. And he said, well, you know, now this film is our history. And, you know, it's like there aren't 10 films or 15 films. There's this little film, and in a certain way it becomes sort of our history. And yeah, it's curious. And I heard about a week ago, there was an NPR piece of a writer named Peter Morgan, who wrote The Crown and the Queen. And he was telling kind of the same story, that he wrote a fictional film, I guess it was probably The Queen, and he writes a scene, and the scene has dialogue between Tony Blair and the Queen after Princess Diana's death. So he writes the dialogue, the film gets shown, and then years later, Tony Blair writes his autobiography, and he has the same dialogue in it, the exact same dialogue. And Peter Morgan's going, that is so, you know, I couldn't have gotten it that right. I mean, you know, I mean, that's just improbable that he would say the same thing. And in some way, his memory had been blurred by, Tony Blair's memory had been blurred by the film, by what he'd seen. He didn't even know it. So it's a curious power of film, and so it's a responsibility that, especially with a documentary, that, you know, we take like really, really seriously. Yeah, we do. So what I want to say is that, so the film was really about, you know, the fire, the monster fire. It is about the monster fire, and it's about the radio station. And underneath that story, the layer is about a community, you know, you guys, you know, taking care of yourselves in this, you know, in this event. And, you know, I saw so much, you know, generosity and courage and caretaking. And for me, that's the, you know, that's what makes it a universal story, that, you know, this was Lake County, but, you know, the next town, the community that's got the sea rise coming, or some other event, you know, it's going to be the same set of questions. Do you know your neighbors? You know, do you have an alert system that's, you know, that's robust? How are we going to take care of each other? And yeah, so enjoy the film. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that the film is not available. You guys get to be the first to see it. We can't show it because it's up for some film awards. She submitted.
No, it's up for submitting to some film awards. They're very strict about free distribution.
So we have to be very careful, but once the film festivals are over and decided, we will have a copy to circulate for the library. It is not going to be on the No Lake County DVD because of the restrictions. So, but we will have a copy of the film later. And I know a lot of you have family and friends who didn't make it today that you'd like them to see it. So we'll get it as soon as we can, but probably 9 months-ish. So, and we may show it at the other libraries if there's interest, and you know, a lot of people live in different areas, so that would be good too. So I'm going to open up for questions. because our panel that was supposed to be here isn't here. I don't know what happened. So, I don't see Betsy.
No.
She's sick.
She's sick, yeah.
Okay, so Andy's going to come up also and help with questions.
I just want to say something. I want to acknowledge Sheriff Brian Martin.
Of course, yes you do.
You're a big part of this incident.
Absolutely, I really am happy that you came.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did you write this?
Shane, with the narration,
Yes.
Shane and I did together.
It's absolutely wonderful. And it's so beautifully conceived. And really? I'm very touched. I think everybody feels
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the visuals were just so beautiful when you got into the fire scenes. I really, that helps with all the emotional stuff to have the beauty going on in there as well, and how you took and turned the, these scenes of horror and scenes of beauty. I know you didn't shoot those, but
Exactly.
a lot of that is the artistry always comes up in the editing.
Well,
And-
the artistry was in the stills.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Well, no, I mean, but editing through and knowing which ones to
Yeah,
choose
that's-
and put it
that's-
together. You did it was the beauty of the film helped the story come through.
Thank you. I'll say thank you for Shane, because that's his contribution. But Kent Porter was the photographer is the photographer for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, and the really important still photographs are his, and without those, there would be no way to evoke what it was like. And he's such an incredible photographer. I mean, he won some awards for it, but in my mind, he should have been having Pulitzers for them. He was perfectly the right person. He's a native of Lake County. He travels with like fire gear in his car. I mean, it was really, the first responders are heroic, but a photographer who goes into those flames equally so. And he had enough experience to be able to do it and survive it, and then went on to photograph the Sonoma fire. So he's really something, and grateful.
You keep talking about the film. Was this actually put on film, actual
Oh,
film?
no, it's digital. It's digital video.
That's a confusing term.
That's right. That's right. We call ourselves filmmakers, but it is digital.
Great time.
Maybe we'll rethink that.
How did you fund your project?
Out of my pocket.
Do you mind telling us what it cost?
Well, in a certain way, I close my eyes and I don't entirely look. Honestly. But what we try to do is we just try to do it as cheaply as we can. And so my time is entirely, uncompensated. And so is my equipment, and so is the whole thing.
Travel.
Yeah.
Welcome to KPFC.
So, essentially, we just try to do it as lean as possible. And Shane, he does get paid, but it's at a less than he deserves. And we just try to keep him at, what I think of as $10,000 budgets, so that we can go on to the next one. And in a certain way, I feel like I don't have 3 years to fundraise. And I don't want to tap into all my friends to, like the crowdsourcing where all your friends feel like they have to pay for your film. So we just try to do them cheap, and they're not cheap, but that's what we do.
So what do you need to get the film out there so many people can see it?
We submit to film festivals first. That's kind of our first. So I submitted to all the regional ones that I knew of around, the Bay Area and around here. And I guess word of mouth is probably the most important thing, because we don't have an outreach producer. We're on to trying to make another film. So I just do the best I can to get it out.
What are you working on?
Let's see, two things. We've just finished a film, we're just finishing a film that's completely different from this. It's kind of resting. It's kind of resting after this big issue. Doc, it's a poetic film about a drawbridge in this little village that interrupts time. So, and what do people do when they have to wait? Yeah. Kind of charming. It's kind of charming. Yeah.
I want to acknowledge Ron Kaczynski and his big contribution in also helping this happen. And I wish he could be honored more and had not been shown the door of the radio station.
Yeah, thank you for saying so. That's not my part, but I did invite him, and of course he has,
I did too.
absolutely has a part in this. And a film like this is a snapshot in time. And he was there then. He's not at the station now, but he was there in that period, and he was one of the first people I interviewed, and I'm very, very appreciative.
Show of hands of any Valley Fire survivors?
Yes.
Show of hands?
Yeah, how many people here were our Valley Fire survivors?
We were evacuated to Lower Lake, and that's when KPFZ, I want to acknowledge Q here, and her voice was on there a lot, and Ron
Yes.
and Alan Fletcher. Just, I don't know what we would have done without them.
Alan's not here. Alan was very cool.
And, and getting into Middletown, I think you've probably seen more hands in the air, and Cobb.
We're planning an event in Cobb on April 14th, and we'd love to have something like this there.
Oh, thank you.
I just wanted to say I'm really grateful that I'm in your film. Even though I didn't actually appear in your film, at least my voice is in your film. What's really great is that I said, "We're here for you."
Yeah.
I just said that right off the top of my head. That wasn't a slogan.
No, and that just had so much poignancy.
Yeah, that story was really great because that lady was there with her broken clock radio that only picked up one station, and she was terrified, and I comforted her late at night. Just stayed on the phone with her and kept talking to her. So I'm really thrilled that made it into the movie.
I'm so glad, and it was the middle of the night that was the emotionally, most powerful part, and sadly KPFC did not record. The recorders go off at 10 o'clock at night, and so that was a piece that was difficult. But yes, your voice was beautiful, and is it Scotty who the Alcoholic Anonymous?
Oh yeah,
I've got a great face for radio.
Many great faces here.
What's the name of the woman who sat on her lounge chair at the Wilson's home?
Oh, it's Bart.
That's Bart. And we all know her now.
Yeah. I was hoping she'd be here. She'd be here today. I think she's pretty shy. I think.
How did you find her?
She was from KPFC. Several people mentioned her as, the listener that was just the person on the other end of the airwaves.
Yes.
And then, she was not easy to find, but I just found her at
It's kind of like a fire meeting in a way, which I think is wonderful to see the community. And I want to thank Marnie coming back from Boston. At the law library, I realized when I was listening to KPFZ pretty much all the time, except when a patron came in, I'd go, we got to listen to the radio. It was in only the few days after the fire had started. But what I thought of was, my husband mentioned to me there were 2 or 3 miracles, I think, that happened. And it was a few days later, perhaps Sheriff Martin, you can remember the timing of it. Of course, it was 100%, going, no containment. And then I remember hearing Jim Brown on the Native Voices come on, he and Gail, and I think Clayton, and they talked about doing a rain dance.
Yes, I remember hearing that.
And I think the next day it rained.
It was Wednesday.
Do you remember?
Rained on Wednesday.
It takes some time.
And that was one miracle. The other thing is the wind died down. The wind pretty much stopped around that time. The humidity went up. There was another miracle, and I think the other miracle is that, when did the fire break out? Do you remember? What time?
Wow.
1:30 of the 12.
All right, the one other miracle is that, I guess with all the animals and everything, that people were not at work. They were actually at home, so they could evacuate their animals.
Saturday.
So there was a whole timing of it that I think was, in a sense, divine, but not, I can't say it was good, but that the opportunities were all there to make things better for everybody.
Well, I think the people that rescued the animals and the vets that, were just,
Right.
just unbelievable.
And the heroes who went in there with water to feed the goat, to water the goats and stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
During, yeah.
I don't know if anyone heard the story of Levi, the butterfly doggy, but there was, some people were camping right near 29 in the, I can't remember, near Bottle Rock, and they had a little dog named Levi and his sister Lucy, the two little doggies. They were camping, and they had a bullhorn that said you have to evacuate the campgrounds. They took off and in their van with all the kids, and they ended up halfway to Middletown, and they saw Lucy, but they didn't see Levi, the little doggy. And the next thing you know, they looked for Levi, and he was not in the van. So they tried to get back to the campgrounds, and of course the sheriff department was already, the people were, they said you can't come back, you can't go back, the fire is spreading, and they said we have to get our dog. And of course, there's sympathy there, but their lives would have been in risk. So they were turned away from the road. A few days later, around 11 o'clock at night, I was listening to KPFZ, just about to go to bed, and I heard this voice. We're from Wairika. We don't have any more money. We were camping, and we're looking for our dog Levi. We can't find him, and we went to all the shelters, and the shelters said that somebody took the doggy, and we don't know who it was, and they didn't leave their name. And I think it took me almost 12 hours in the morning calling different people, and I finally found a lady that was friends with the veterinarian, that was a volunteer, that they found out who the name of the person was that took this dog. And then I called on the radio and said, whoever is listening, we're looking for this name of this person. They didn't have a phone number, the phone number was wrong. But if it wasn't for the radio station, this little Levi butterfly dog would have stayed at this lady's house. She evacuated her home over near Cobb Mountain, near Kitt's Corner. And when she came back just to feed her dogs, because she couldn't take the dogs, the garbage was strewn all over the place. Levi had gotten into the garbage, and she realized that she thought it was a raccoon or something, and then she saw this little dog at the porch saying, please come in, and he wasn't chipped, but she held on to him. And that's how Levi got back to the owner, was through the radio station, through the announcers. Great story. And Wairika actually did an article on the lost dog found. So I'm really grateful.
The connections were just...
It was just a miracle.
I'd like to say something to the effect, Brian Martin, the job that you guys did at such short notice. I mean, nobody ever expected anything like that to happen, but I really feel you guys did a wonderful job and all you did. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, and it wasn't. So I just want to really thank you for...
Thank you. I wish we could have done more. I'll say thank you, but I'm going to say thank you on behalf of a large team that includes CAL FIRE and the other firefighters. Miss Linda Green, who was featured in the movie, sitting right here. She's sitting here very quietly. her. She is, I saw the little blurb at the end there that she suffers from PTSD, and I imagine we all do after dealing with that. The video of the two deputies running back to the car, if you saw that, the second one coming back is a Deputy Kaiman Brockbalder. He's a former ranger that's with our force, and the first one is Rob Rumpfelt. So, you know, when you hear these things come about Rob being a hero of the community, there's firsthand evidence of it. Thank you for those kind words. I also want to make mention that it mentions 4 lives were lost. It's almost a certainty that there was 5 lives lost. We still have not found the remains of the 5th person. I don't know that we ever will. And it's just a matter of letting enough time pass before we can have him declared legally dead.
Should we change it?
Not yet. If you want to add that a 5th person remains,
maybe at least 4
still remains missing, but yeah, it's we've searched extensively, and we're of the opinion that he's probably never going to be found, but there's going to be a 5th casualty.
You able to say who that is?
Robert Lichman.
That's the guy that was hiking out, right?
He stayed home, and when the evacuations came in, he waved.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but firefighters did a tremendous job. There was, in addition to that, there were 4 firefighters that were fairly severely injured because that fire moved so quickly.
Right at the beginning, right?
Yeah, I mean, we hear the term unprecedented all the time now. We hear about these disasters. That was truly the unprecedented fire. I think that was the first major wildfire that California saw that just spread so quickly, and we were unfortunate enough to get hit with it.
It seems like now, you know, I didn't follow closely these last 2, you know, huge fires, Sonoma down south, but it seems like people are more willing to say, yes, these are climate change, rising temperature, drought fires. Does that jive with what you think?
I think ours was clearly drought driven, coming out on the heels of multiple years of drought, dried out. I mean, trees were literally exploding because they'd heat up and they couldn't. Linda probably explained the process, but they exploded. I can't help but believe that the weather had a lot to do with it.
And you kind of see it all in this fire for what's followed, it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, as the sheriff points out, we live in a burn zone. The historical evidence is evident, and we experience a prolonged drought. So if we got caught by surprise, we shouldn't have.
The lady that was pulling the weeds.
Yeah, these disasters are predictable.
That's funny.
Ma'am, I must commend you on your work. It's very hard to give a lawyer a stone in his throat, and you got a stone in his ear.
Lawyer? Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for
Might as well.